thought I was just cleaning up after my husband's barbecue, but when his friend Greg stayed behind to help, something shifted. It wasn't an affair, not even close, but it woke up a part of me I'd buried for years. I'm Rachel, and this is the quiet, terrifying, beautiful story of how I began to feel alive again. Hi everyone, I'm Jessica, the storyteller on the Adult Women's Tales channel. Here, I'll share stories about love, conflicts, betrayal, and infidelity within American families. These stories offer a deep look into relationships and the challenges families face. Stay tuned and explore with me. If you love emotional stories and want to uncover the hidden secrets in families, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our videos. I never imagined this would happen to me. Avoid making the same mistakes I did. It was one of those damp, gray Saturdays that lingered in the air, reminiscent of forgotten laundry waiting to be brought in. A day that seeps into your skin, leaving your bones weary regardless of how many cups of coffee you've consumed. My husband, Tom, had just finished hosting one of his neighborhood barbecue parties, a semi-regular tradition that consistently left our home infused with the scent of smoke, adorned with grease and scattered with beer bottles in corners I never knew existed. He headed out with some friends to enjoy the second half of the game at Doug's place. I never intended to join in. The constant hum of chatter had my head spinning, and my feet ached from the demands of playing the perfect hostess. I dismissed him with a casual flick of my wrist, my gaze already drifting to the towering pile of dishes in the sink and the red Solo cups multiplying like weeds on our porch. At that moment, Greg, his friend, stepped into the doorway, a trash bag in one hand and a half smile playing on his lips. "Looking for some assistance?" he inquired, transferring the bag to his opposite hand, as if he were preparing for a job interview rather than a cleanup task. I blinked, caught off guard for a brief moment. Greg was consistently courteous, yet I wouldn't describe our relationship as particularly close. He was Tom's colleague, a familiar face at our gatherings, effortlessly bringing laughter to the room with his understated charm. Somewhat more subdued than the others, just a touch more attentive. His eyes were a soft grey, speckled with hints of green, conveying an impression that he perceived far more than he revealed. "I insist," I replied, waving my hand towards the disarray. "This is my arena." He gave a casual shrug. "I have some time on my hands. Additionally, I believe you deserve some support." I chose not to engage in a debate. I felt exhausted, and there was a certain comfort in not facing the aftermath alone. We kicked off the cleaning process. Initially, there was a serene stillness, the soft rustle of plastic bags, the gentle clink of bottles, and the faint hum of distant sports commentary seeping through an open window create a vivid backdrop. We navigated our surroundings effortlessly, as though an invisible dance directed our every move. He seized the kitchen as I launched my assault on the porch. At one moment, I spotted him cleaning the blender that Tom had abandoned, its insides coated with hardened margarita mix. Many men wouldn't dare to go near that, even with gloves on. Have you ever wondered if Tom hosts these parties just to avoid the cleanup afterward? Greg shouted above the roar of the water. I snorted. If he had the option to delegate breathing, he likely would. Greg let out a chuckle, and for a brief moment, I noticed a shift in his posture, as if he grasped more about my life than I had initially thought. As we toiled, the atmosphere transformed, not in a dramatic way. No tangible evidence to highlight, simply a note to keep in mind. Greg's sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms dusted with dark hair, while his fingers moved with a quiet precision that caught my attention. He observed how I massaged my neck when fatigue set in and inquired if I would like some water. He observed quite a bit, in fact. Eventually, we found ourselves in the living room together. I was collecting stray napkins and coasters. He meticulously polished the coffee table. As our hands simultaneously reached for the half-full glass, they brushed against each other, igniting a spark of connection. A jolt of warmth, electrifying and intense, surged through my arm. We both leaned back a bit, locking eyes in a moment of shared understanding. There it stood, discreet, uncertain. However, it is indisputable. A hint of unspoken words lingers in the air. I gulped. "There's no need for you to stick around, Greg. Honestly, everything is okay." He remained still. "I'm perfectly fine with that." I became acutely conscious of how my t-shirt adhered to my back. It had been so long since anyone looked at me as more than just someone's wife, someone's hostess, or a mere background character. "Are you all right?" he inquired softly. I nodded, though it sounded more like a question. "Absolutely. Simply exhausted." "Have you ever felt exhausted without a clear reason?" "Constantly." I chuckled gently, an unusual chuckle, not arising from humor, but from a different source altogether. Perhaps a sense of relief, acknowledgement. He settled onto the edge of the couch, invitingly patting the space next to him. It had a relaxed vibe, warm and inviting. Yet, I found myself pausing. "I promise, I won't bite," he added with a reassuring smile. I took my time to sit down. A dignified space separates us, yet I can still sense his presence nearby. We sat in silence for a moment, observing how the kitchen lights cast their shadows gracefully across the floor. He chose his words carefully, saying, "You and Tom, you seemed good together." Typically, what a generous gesture. I smiled, yet the warmth didn't quite touch my eyes. "We feel at ease. You're familiar with the drill." "I absolutely do." And just like that, a change occurred once more. Strike with an edge of peril, in a relatable manner, a manner that truly acknowledged my presence rather than merely observing me. Listened to, not merely acknowledged. I'm not quite sure what compelled me to take that step. Perhaps it was the stillness, the wine I enjoyed with dinner, or the way he gazed at me, not with desire, but with a sincere, patient curiosity that I hadn't experienced in years. "Greg," I spoke gently, "what was your true reason for staying?" He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "Then, it appeared that you could use someone as well." I glanced at him, my breath hitching ever so slightly. "Is it really that straightforward?" "Absolutely," he mentioned. "At times, situations simply exist." That night, we remained untouched. No, not at all. In that fleeting moment, he leaned in, softly tucking a stray hair behind my ear, allowing his hand to linger just a heartbeat longer than necessary. I should have pulled away. I did not. The sound of the clock ticking echoed softly in the background. A distant bark of a dog echoed through the air. I eventually rose, expressing my gratitude once more, feeling oddly vulnerable, as if something profound had transpired, despite the absence of any real event. He departed with nothing more than a soft, "Good night, Rachel." His words struck a chord within me, as if something had shattered and released a flood of emotions, and that was merely the start. The following morning, the house sparkled with cleanliness, and everything appeared perfectly ordinary. However, I wasn't. I navigated the day with a facade of normalcy, folding laundry, checking emails, pouring coffee, yet my thoughts incessantly drifted back to Greg, his attentive listening, his presence resonating like a subtle vibration beneath my skin. I had never picked up on that hum before. Perhaps I had noticed it all along, yet chose to overlook it, as acknowledging it felt akin to unlocking a door I wasn't meant to enter. Tom returned home late from work the following evening, grumbling about traffic and budget meetings. He pressed his lips to my cheek, his gaze elsewhere. I smiled, just as I always have. That night, as I lay in bed next to him, my mind kept drifting back to that fleeting, charged moment we shared in the living room. The gaze in Greg's eyes, the sensation of truly being noticed. I found myself pondering whether a lasting change had taken place. Whether it occurred or not, it would remain our secret, lingering in silence, yet never truly erased from memory. At that moment, I had no idea just how much was yet to unfold, yet I would embrace the opportunity to learn. The subsequent days unfolded like the gradual loosening of a meticulously wound thread. I made an effort to let it go. I truly did. The serene pause shared with Greg, the comforting embrace of his presence. His gaze lingered on mine, free of expectations or demands, yet it lingered, always just beyond my grasp. It's reminiscent of a tune that lingers in your mind, elusive yet familiar, inviting you to hum along. Tom was just as he always was. Engrossed, absorbed, entangled in tasks and daily habits, we seamlessly returned to our groove. The morning brew, the evening screen, the quiet moments in bed that had shifted from connection to mere coexistence. And still, I stood apart. I became more observant. The soothing rhythm of my breath while I shower, the fluid motion of my hands as I wash the dishes, the expanding void within me resonated with emptiness. 3 days passed before Greg finally sent a text. Asterisk, asterisk, hello there. I hope my staying over the other night was okay. It was great connecting with you. I found myself gazing at the message far longer than necessary. It was completely innocuous, warm and welcoming. Yet my heart raced. No, not at all. Asterisk, asterisk, I responded. Having someone around who truly sees the mess was a refreshing change. A moment stretched on, causing me to wonder if sending it was the right choice. His response illuminated the display. Observe significantly more than that. Asterisk, asterisk. My breath hitched ever so slightly. Once more, it appeared. The thrill of being on the brink of something extraordinary, something that has the power to shatter my defenses or revive my spirit. No response was given, not immediately. I shut my phone and laid it face down on the counter. I carried on with my evening as though everything was perfectly ordinary. Dinner has been prepared, towels neatly folded. I watched Jeopardy with Tom, who didn't even acknowledge me when I nailed 3 questions in a row. That night, I found myself lost in a dream of gentle gray eyes where the silence wrapped around me, rich and full, rather than hollow. When I next crossed paths with Greg, it felt almost by chance. That's what I convinced myself. Tom extended an invitation for him to lend a hand in repairing the fence that borders the back of our yard. A task that had been delayed for 2 winters and a fierce windstorm. It wasn't until I caught a glimpse of him through the kitchen window that I realized he was on his way, equipped and ready. Chuckling at a remark made by Tom, he cast his gaze. Absolutely, effortlessly stylish jeans, worn flannel sleeves casually rolled up to his elbows. His hair was tousled and his hands bore the dust of hard work. He glanced up at the window and locked eyes with me just before I could avert my gaze. He flashed a smile. As the men relaxed on the porch, I served up some refreshing lemonade. It happened effortlessly, respectful. As I passed Greg his glass, our fingers brushed once more. This time, it felt intentional. Our eyes locked in a moment of connection, consistent exploration. Thanks, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Tom let out a frustrated groan as he rose to his feet. Time to dive back in. This fence requires your attention to come to life. Greg stole a fleeting glance my way, lingering just a heartbeat longer than required before he moved on. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the tools were neatly stowed away, I discovered myself alone on the back porch with Tom dozing off in front of the TV. The atmosphere was thick with the sweet scent of honeysuckle and freshly mowed grass. The fence appeared impressive, robust, sleek contours reminiscent of a significant achievement. My phone vibrated with a notification. Asterisk, asterisk, you were absolutely stunning today, even adorned with blossoms. Asterisk, asterisk, I blinked. Blossom, As they were outside, I recalled that I had been busy baking banana bread. I had flour on my shirt and didn't bother to brush it off. He observed that. I gazed at the message, feeling uncertain about how to respond. Every fiber of my being yearned to embrace the comforting warmth of his words, to acknowledge the profound impact they had on something within me that I believed was long forgotten. Yet, a sense of guilt lingered within me. Not guilty, as if I had committed an offense. There was a complete absence of events. Yet there's a guilt that lingers, an undeniable awareness that your heart has strayed to places it ought not to be. That evening, I perched on the rim of the bathtub, gazing intently at my reflection in the mirror. I had moved beyond my youthful days. The creases around my eyes had grown more pronounced. My skin had diminished in its radiance. I embraced the silver streaks in my hair, no longer feeling the need to conceal them. For the first time in years, I took a moment to really observe. Something within me lingered, a desire that yearned to be fulfilled. Greg's message sparked something within me, igniting a flicker of inspiration. In the coming week, we exchanged a few more messages, always with precision, with careful consideration. He never applied pressure, always stayed within the boundaries. Still, the words held a significance that resonated more profoundly than any physical contact. One afternoon, while Tom was away on a weekend trip to visit his brother out of state, I stood in the kitchen, captivated by the stillness around me. The house exuded a sense of vastness and solitude. I meandered through each room, aimlessly reaching out to objects around me. A visage, the frayed arm of the couch, a snapshot of Tom and me from 15 years back, grinning awkwardly at a resort that's faded from our memories. I reached for my phone. The silence in the house is deafening. He responded in no time at all. Asterisk, asterisk, looking for some company, asterisk, asterisk. I took my time to respond. However, I did. Just 20 minutes later, he appeared at my doorstep. He hesitated to step inside immediately. He stood there, hands tucked into his pockets, awaiting an unvoiced approval. I moved aside, my heart racing. In the cozy kitchen, we sipped our tea, engaging in conversations about the little things that held no significance. Films, melodies, cherished family tales. Yet beneath the surface, an unspoken connection vibrated between us. Something genuine, compassionate, and intimately near. "I'm not looking to complicate things," he said gently, his eyes unwavering. "I truly enjoy your company. You seem authentic." I took a deep breath. It's been a while since I heard those words from anyone. He extended his hand, softly gliding his knuckles over the back of mine, a delicate caress. My fingers curled, not away from his, but toward him. "I have no idea what this is," I murmured. "There's no need for you to know." We lingered in that moment, fingers almost brushing, breaths suspended, hearts fully exposed, for what seemed like an eternity. As he finally rose to depart, there was no lean-in, no kiss shared between us. With a gentle squeeze of my hand, he whispered, "Good night, Rachel." Once more, it was the absence of events that resonated as the most significant moment. As he walked away, guilt was the last thing on my mind. I experienced a rush of vitality, and it filled me with fear. The following morning, I rose before the sun made its appearance. The sheets next to me lay cold and untouched. The house was enveloped in a profound stillness, a serene hush that only solitude can bring, as Tom wouldn't return until late that evening. I lingered on the edge of the bed, my gaze fixed on the floor, contemplating when the rules had shifted. As a man like Greg, quiet, observant, and kind, began to occupy more of my thoughts than my own husband, it became clear that there was no affair, no betrayal in the physical sense. Yet, a change had occurred. A thread had unraveled in the tapestry of my existence, and I had pulled on it unknowingly. Now everything seemed just a bit off, reminiscent of a painting that's been hung slightly askew. I kept myself occupied throughout the morning with laundry, vacuuming, and reorganizing the spice rack, anything to keep my hands busy. Yet Greg lingered in my mind, a whisper I couldn't silence. The moment his fingers brushed against mine played on repeat in my mind. His eyes held a gaze that spoke not of desire, but of profound understanding. I found myself torn between wanting more of him and wanting more of who I am, perhaps a combination of both. At approximately midday, my phone vibrated. I can't stop thinking about you. Wishing you a day filled with kindness. The message was remarkably brief, uncomplicated and unassuming, yet it cut through the silence like a delicate chime in a serene space. I gazed at it, going over the words again, sensing that familiar flutter deep in my chest. I took my time to respond. I ventured into the garden instead, a place where Tom seldom lingered. Over the years, it transformed into my sanctuary, a cherished slice of tranquility, even if many of the flowers had faded from their prime. Perched on the bench beneath the sprawling branches of the ancient oak, I cradled my foam in hand, my heart racing with anticipation. Asterisk, asterisk, I'm also keeping you in my thoughts. Asterisk, asterisk, I've finally put pen to paper. I wish I could grasp what this is all about. Just a moment later. Perhaps understanding isn't necessary. Perhaps it simply is what it is. And in that moment, a sense of resolution washed over me. When we crossed paths again, it was following Tom's return. The dynamic between Greg and me had settled into a hushed stillness once more. Minimize communication, maximize freedom. We hadn't discussed the possibility of meeting, yet I sensed it was only a matter of time before it occurred. Our town was small, and our social circles intertwined more than I was willing to acknowledge. A week later, the scene shifted to another neighbor's cookout. Greg showed up after the expected time. I caught a glimpse of him before he noticed me, poised at the edge of the lawn, drink in hand, chuckling courteously at a remark made by someone nearby. As he turned his gaze toward the patio where I stood, our eyes met effortlessly, as if it were the most instinctive connection imaginable. Once more, a profound silence enveloped the scene. We held off on speaking immediately, not when others are present, not with Tom around, preoccupied with the grill and nursing a half-empty beer. Eventually, Greg made his way over, plate of food in hand, standing next to me as we both observed a child attempting to catch fireflies. "I didn't expect to find you here," he murmured quietly. I smiled, my gaze averted from him. Likewise. His voice was so soft that even someone standing just 2 feet away wouldn't have been able to hear it. Our conversations have been truly missed. I have too. It was not a confession, not exactly, yet it seemed like one, a truth hanging delicately in the balance. As the evening wore on and the festivities started to wind down, I slipped away to the side of the house, seeking a brief escape from the clamor. I craved fresh air. Silence, a sanctuary for your soul. To my surprise, Greg decided to follow. He emerged from the shadows, as if he had been expecting me all along. "I just needed a break," I replied swiftly, aiming for a nonchalant tone. He gave a nod. "Same here." A moment of silence lingered. "You seemed a bit lost in thought tonight," he remarked. I pivoted to confront him. It's challenging to resist that feeling. Somewhere in the distance, the cicadas buzzed softly. A gentle breeze whispered through the leaves overhead. "I don't want to complicate your life," he stated. "It's essential to be aware of that. I'm aware. However, I can no longer act as if you are merely someone else's wife to me." My breath hitched. "I can't even grasp who I am at this moment," I whispered. "I sense that I'm emerging from a long slumber, ready to embrace the world once more." He moved in closer, maintaining a careful and respectful demeanor. "Perhaps you simply need to ease into your morning. Take your time. Embrace the freedom of no expectations, only truthfulness. In the serene stillness of that evening, he extended his hand and softly grasped mine, without possessiveness, not in a romantic way at all, simply a connection, a commitment. I stayed right where I was. We lingered in silence, standing side by side for what felt like an eternity. It was an experience that surpassed any sense of intimacy I had known in years. That night, sleep eluded me. Tom lay beside me, snoring softly, completely oblivious. My mind buzzed with energy, swirling with questions and endless possibilities. I realized I was positioned right on a fault line. A single misstep could unravel it all. However, I was acutely aware that returning to the past was not an option. Not entirely. Greg ignited a spark within me. More than mere longing, it's about being there. Listen up. Compassion. The harder I attempted to push it away, the more I realized I was rejecting the very pieces of myself I had long overlooked. The following day, I picked up a notebook that had gathered dust for years and began to write in it. Simply reflections, concepts, and unspoken words. I expressed my emotions when Greg's gaze met mine. The emotions I experienced when Tom and I began our relationship. The gradual shift was so subtle that it slipped by unnoticed, leaving me feeling hollow. Writing brought a sense of satisfaction. It's akin to taking back what is rightfully yours. A few days later, I bumped into Greg at the hardware store. It was meant to be insignificant. We crossed paths in the paint aisle. The gaze he directed at me, gentle, inviting, and full of comprehension, stirred a familiar ache in my heart, both tender and overwhelming. He mentioned that you've been on his mind. I surveyed my surroundings. This is not the right location. He flashed a smile. Let's discover one that fits the bill. My heart raced as I paused, uncertainty gripping me. Could you clarify what you mean? A simple stroll, a serene escape. Embrace the freedom of no expectations. I gazed at him for an extended moment. I nodded in agreement. In an instant, what had long been kept in the shadows boldly emerged into the spotlight. We encountered each other at the quaint walking trail on the outskirts of town, where the trees arched over the path as if they were eavesdropping. It was a place where curiosity was left at the door. Only joggers and birdwatchers, individuals with earbuds and dogs, their thoughts drifting elsewhere. I parked a bit further from the entrance than I typically do, as if that extra distance might offer me some clarity. Greg stood by his truck, arms crossed and leaning casually against it. Upon seeing me, he held back his smile initially. He stood there, observing my approach, as if I were something delicate and significant. "Are you confident in this decision?" he inquired gently. "No," I stated firmly. "However, I am present." That was sufficient. We began our stroll at a leisurely pace. The sound of our footsteps crunching on gravel mingles with the occasional crackle of dry leaves beneath us. The forest stood still, bathed in a warm golden light of late afternoon that enveloped the surroundings in a serene and reverent atmosphere. For a time, silence enveloped us as we navigated our shared space, existing side by side in a way that felt right, where words could only disrupt the delicate atmosphere. The warmth of him lingered just inches from my skin, not quite touching, yet so close that I could feel his presence. The peculiar nature of that silence, that subtle restraint, held a level of intimacy that surpassed anything I had experienced in years. "At last," he confessed, "I've been reflecting on that evening, the way you gazed at me." I stole a glance at him, my breath catching in my throat. I clarified that I wasn't attempting to convey a message. "You really didn't need to. It was simply genuine." We took a few more steps forward. I confessed that I was unsure of my actions. For years now, Tom and I have been cruising along. I was completely unaware of the distance that had grown between us until someone looked at me and truly recognized my presence. He halted his steps and faced me. "I notice you, Rachel." His voice wavered as if each word carried a weight of its own. A searing sensation gripped my throat, a tight and fiery pressure swelling just behind my eyes. I brushed it aside. "Greg, I can't make any guarantees. Walking away from a marriage isn't something I can do simply because of unexpected feelings. I'm not requesting that you do." His voice resonated with confidence and assurance. "My intention isn't to take anything from you. I genuinely care about you. I want you to experience the power of choice in your own life. That's everything." A gentle breeze stirred, creating a soft ripple among the trees. I hugged myself tightly, feeling an unexpected chill even with the sun shining bright. "You bring me back to life," I whispered. "And that's absolutely chilling." He approached, deliberately and with purpose, his hand intertwined with mine, softly weaving our fingers together. "I refuse to be a hidden truth," he declared. "I won't pressure you to become someone you're not. If there's a connection between us, and I believe we both sense it, I'm ready to be patient for as long as necessary, or until you inform me that there's nothing to be found here." I took my time before responding. I embraced the sensation of his hand resting on me, its warmth anchoring my spirit. I gazed up at him and perceived not merely a man, but an inquiry. An opportunity awaits, a reflective surface. Ultimately, I expressed that I require some time. "Go ahead and take it," he said. "I'll always be here." We strolled once more, taking our time this time around, next to each other. At times, his fingers would lightly graze against mine. At times, they fell short. That evening, as we parted ways by the trail, he chose not to kiss me. He gazed at me as if I were someone truly deserving of his patience. As I cruised home, the windows rolled down, a refreshing breeze kissed my skin. Upon my arrival, the house exuded a serene silence. Tom lounged in the living room, engrossed in a show on TV. He glanced up as I entered the room. "Hey," he said with a laid-back vibe. "It seems you've been away for some time." "Absolutely," I mentioned as I took off my coat. "Took a stroll." He gave a nod. "Are you doing all right?" I took a moment to stop. "Absolutely," I acknowledged it and recognized its truth, to some extent. After years of uncertainty, I finally began to grasp the true essence of being okay. Imperfect, unclear, simply transparent. That evening, I found myself at the kitchen table, a warm cup of tea in hand and my trusty notebook open before me. I spent a considerable amount of time writing. This isn't solely about Greg. It's also about me, exploring the simplicity with which one can lose sight of themselves amidst the daily rhythms of married life. Exploring our roles as caretakers, schedulers, and peacemakers, yet seldom embracing our identity as women, infrequently complete, intricate entities. I chose not to explore the theme of love, not at this moment. However, I focused on clarity, reflecting on moments that shine like lanterns through the mist. 1 week went by. Greg failed to send a text. Neither did I. It wasn't about evasion. It was the vast expanse of space. Essential, well-deserved space. One evening, Tom and I enjoyed a delightful dinner together. Only the two of us. Stay focused. For the first time in ages, I studied him intently. He appeared more aged, exhausted, not harsh, but distant. It felt as though the life we had created together had transformed into a house where we resided apart. "Have you ever sensed that something has slipped away from us?" I made an unexpected request. He lifted his gaze from his plate. At times, he remarked, "I believe that's perfectly normal. Everything eventually fades away. Keep pushing forward. Could we have put up a stronger fight? I inquired. What's the purpose? I chose not to respond. I was unaware. As the night unfolded, I found myself by the window, watching Tom as he brushed his teeth. I gazed out at the yard, the garden, the fence that Greg assisted in constructing. I contemplated hands that mended rather than grasped, regarding words that provided rather than seized. I came to an important realization. It wasn't a matter of selecting one man over another. It was all about prioritizing my own needs. Just 2 days later, I found myself sitting down for coffee with Greg, out in the open, under the sun. No secrets here. There's no reason for embarrassment. He noticed me enter and rose to his feet, gave that familiar, gentle, lingering smile that had captivated me from the very start. "You look fantastic," he remarked. I expressed that I feel better, unresolved, feeling more alert. He extended his hand toward mine, bridging the space between us at the table. I expressed my desire to take things slow. I want to have complete confidence in every detail. I'm here to stay. I placed my trust in him. Later that evening, I returned home and had a conversation with Tom, engaged in a meaningful conversation. After a long hiatus, there was no conflict between us. We held back our tears. We simply shared the truth. In reality, we had transformed into two individuals who maintained a mutual respect for one another, yet felt like strangers. However, our love had faded, not in a manner that united two individuals, not in a manner that brought healing. We reached a mutual decision to part ways, amicably, gradually, with attention to detail. The cleanliness was lacking. Nothing ever truly is. However, it was sincere. Months later, Greg and I found ourselves in my garden, beneath the very oak tree that had once been a symbol of my solitude. This time he was grasping my hand. I felt no fear. This isn't the life I envisioned, yet it belonged to me now. For the first time in ages, I was truly experiencing it. That's it for today's story. If you found it moving, don't forget to share the video with your friends and family. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.